13-year-old Robert B. Jr. ran away from his home on the 200 block of Sapp Street in Pekin last Thursday. Police say it happened after an argument with a truancy officer in front of his house.
The 13-year-old male took off running from the police, and when he did not return home, his mother reported him as a runaway.
Almost a year after Robert B. first went missing, loved ones and community members finally have some answers. Bones found in a wooded area back in July have been identified as B.
Strangers formed search parties to do what they could to help the boy described as friendly and full of life. And as I learned, they are determined to continuing on that legacy. It was November 16th, 2016. Pekin police say 13-year-old Robert B. Jr. ran from a truancy officer. His mom says he spent the night at a friend's house, and the next morning, he didn't get on the school bus. We talked to his mother, Lisa B., days after his disappearance.
I don't know where he's at. It's not like him because he would not take off. He don't ever take off like this.
Soon days turned into weeks without any sighting of B. Thousands of tips poured into the Pekin Police Department.
There were probably days that at least a couple of the detectives didn't go home, following up on leads.
We're going to do a grid search of their areas and get more eyes out there.
Strangers, gripped by the story, felt compelled to search for B. Bobette Spillman was one of the first searchers, even though she didn't know Robert B. or his family.
It just hit home for me. You know, if it was one of my kids, I would want the world out searching.
It was a picture of the young boy on Facebook that prompted Mary Jane Richards to change her weekly hiking trip into a search.
I have 17 grandchildren. If one of them were missing, I would want all the help in the world I could get.
Months of searches and candlelight vigils provided hope that B would be found alive, until the hot July day when a man mowing his lawn on a rural piece of land in Tazewell County discovered skeletal remains, later identified as those of Robert B. Jr.
We all knew it, but it was still a shock. It was still just a shock. We were holding out for last minute of hope, you know?
It was terrible. It felt like a piece of my heart was ripped out.
For a little boy that you didn't even know.
Yeah.
As the investigation continues into what happened, those so deeply touched by a little boy they didn't even know are determined to make sure the impact of his 13 short years of life live on.
We're going to keep going. We're going to do a lot of things in his memory.
They took something from me that I can never get back.
Before you can truly understand what happened to Robert B. Jr., you have to understand who the boy behind the picture on the poster was.
He was happy-go-lucky, he was friendly with everybody, always hungry. He was always hungry.
The most beautiful smile. You can just see a light around the young man.
Batman! He was just full of life, got along with everybody, never hurt anybody. Everybody loved him, and he loved everybody.
Robert B. Jr. had a personality you couldn't miss, but life wasn't always easy for the 13-year-old, called Bonsai by those who knew him best.
Me and Bonsai struggled a lot, but I always tried to make sure that he had things that he needed.
On November 17th, 2016, police say B ran from a truancy officer near his Pekin home. He was known to be resourceful and clever, so leaving home for several days at a time wasn't unusual for the young boy. His mother didn't immediately report him missing. We spoke with her days after his disappearance.
I know he's going to be brought home because I have to have faith.
Lisa B says her son spent the night at a friend's house.
I talked to him Thursday night on the phone about 11 o'clock, and he told me, night, night, sleep tight, don't let the bed bugs bite, and I love you, Mommy. And that was the last time I talked to him and I seen him.
And never made it on the school bus the next morning. She believes he made a stop at the family home on Sapp Street while no one was home, possibly to grab medication for his seizure disorder. And you don't know what happened after that?
Nope.
But his mother is telling neighbors and volunteer searchers a different story while they look for her son.
It was Friday morning. His friend walked him to the bus stop and he didn't get on the bus, didn't go to school.
Now those inconsistencies are creating worry for the volunteers.
You say that was the last time you see him. Then now you're stating that no, he came home.
Cold November days turned to weeks with no sighting of B. Thousands of tips came across Pekin Police Chief John Dossey's desk.
There's been hundreds and hundreds of man-hours devoted to this since day one.
Captivated by the picture of the boy circulating the community and social media, strangers came out dedicating entire weekends to finding Robert B. Candlelight vigils, providing hope he would be found alive. On a hot July day, a neighbor mowing his lawn found remains here on this piece of property in rural Tazewell County.
The forensic pathologist did state that in his opinion that the remains are that of Robert B.
A death investigation now underway. The remains were taken to the Illinois State Police Crime Lab to figure out who they belonged to and if there was any clue left behind for what happened to them.
Bones do create a challenge of their own because there's very little left to work with.
In September, scientists found a positive DNA match. The remains identified as those of Robert B. Jr.
Depending on how long the evidence has been out in the elements, perhaps it could affect what kind of analysis we can do.
Arlene Hall is commander of Illinois State Police Crime Labs. As a forensic scientist for more than 3 decades, she's seen technology advance, helping solve cases where it might seem like few clues are left.
We will try anything, so we won't ever say no. If we're the last shot they have at something, we'll give it a chance.
If I give up and stop fighting, the people that did that to my son is going to go free. And I can't let that happen. I have to fight for him.
Do you know what happened to him?
I picture it in my head every day.
Lisa B. says her son's death has tortured her every day since his remains were found in late July. But she admits she wasn't a perfect parent when he was alive.
I might not have been the best parent that I should have, or I gave my son a little too much freedom. But I would protect them at all costs.
Lisa calls Robert her miracle baby and says losing him made her world stop.
I sit and I think about who, why they would want to do that to a 14-year-old boy that was full of life.
There are people, as I'm sure you know, out there who think that you're not saying something that you know. What do you have to say to that?
Nope. My son's my life. I made a promise to both my kids. I would die for my kids. They were my everything.
In a document we obtained during our investigation, Lisa B. filed for an order of protection against a man she says is a former boyfriend on September 30th, 2016, 7 weeks before her son Robert ran away. In that document, Lisa says the man was inside her home and that she's afraid for her safety and her son's life. She also mentions that same man was at the park trying to get her son to come up to his vehicle. Why were you scared for your life and the life of your son as you out there?
He was outside my bedroom window, and he was hollering through the bedroom window that I could run, but I couldn't hide.
Do you think he was capable of killing your son?
He was capable of anything.
The month after B ran away, the order of protection was denied by a Tazewell County judge. Still, Lisa maintains she doesn't know what happened to her son.
I wish I did. The cops ask me all the time if I have any idea. No. I'm losing hope, though, because no one's coming forward.
I will not change my stance. Somebody still has some information, and they don't want to come forward with it.
Pekin Police Chief John Dossey says his department has followed up on thousands of tips since day one.
Many of the things that people suggest we've done, we have done, and done it again and again and again. Recommending search warrants and talking to people, we have done.
He is determined not to let this case go cold.
I don't think we're in a position where we're going to give up on it. There's been cases that have gone many, many years and eventually get solved.
But at this point, no arrests have been made and little information has been released. We're sitting here 1 year later since Robert B. Jr. ran away. Has progress been made?
I'd say yes. We, since day one, had been up on things. We felt things weren't necessarily right from the beginning, and they took precaution to do that, to look at things from that aspect.
1 year later, a 13-year-old boy's death and disappearance, still a mystery.
I feel horrible. never be married. He'll, never graduate high school, and his mom will, won't have his grandchildren.
Bonsai, you have a world behind you that loves you.
I'm going to keep fighting every day until I get that justice. I will keep fighting.
Strangers formed search parties to do what they could to help the boy described as friendly and full of life. And as I learned, they are determined to continuing on that legacy. It was
13-year-old Robert B. Jr. ran away from his home on the 200 block of Sapp Street in Pekin last Thursday. Police say it happened after an argument with a truancy officer in front of his house.
The 13-year-old male took off running from the police, and when he did not return home, his mother reported him as a runaway.
It was November 16th, 2016. Pekin police say 13-year-old Robert B. Jr. ran from a truancy officer. His mom says he spent the night at a friend's house, and the next morning, he didn't get on the school bus. We talked.
Almost a year after Robert B. first went missing, loved ones and community members finally have some answers. Bones found in a wooded area back in July have been identified as B,